Hi everyone, good day. My name is Ropa Alice and welcome to Beyond the Raw Leadership Unboxed. Today I'm excited. I'm joined by Yeve. We met on LinkedIn. I was following her and I have seen her work and the things that she posts on LinkedIn and they resonated with me. I'm just like, let me reach out. And she was kind enough to also then respond. And here we are today. Yeve, thank you so much for agreeing to come to Beyond the Raw Leadership Unboxed. I would ask you if you can introduce yourself as someone is introducing you.
Oh, okay. First, thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here. So you want me to introduce myself as if someone is introducing me? Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a new one. I like it. All right. Yeve is a wife and a mom, first and foremost. She is a creative at heart. She is a native Zimbabwean. And she has spent most of her life outside of Zimbabwe, living in the US and in the UK. And she has um, done a number of things throughout her career. And she believes in authentic leadership. Since we're talking about leadership unboxed, she believes in authentic leadership.
Mhm.
And her own leadership journey has been inspired by people who've gone before her, people who have mentored her and sponsored her, and giving back and inspiring the next generation of leaders. And she's very happy to be here.
That's awesome. I'm sure our listeners are keen to know what you do for work.
Yeah, sure. I am a coach. I'm a coach for high achieving leaders in high pressure environments.
Mhm.
I particularly work mostly with lawyers. I myself am one. I trained as one and practice as one
Yeah.
for the majority of my career to date. And now I support high achievers in building careers that are sustainable and that they can get excited about and that they can be intentional about. So I really believe in the power of being intentional about building a life and career that you love.
That's awesome. If your colleagues or people that are close to you were to introduce you using three words, what would they say?
Mm, I think they would say warm.
Hmm.
I think they would also say intentional.
Yes,
Um, and I think they would say dynamic.
that's awesome. I've seen intentional from your post on LinkedIn. Like the things that you share, they really show intention. And also um, the way that you've just introduced yourself to show how dynamic you are also then brings in that intention as well. So thank you so much for sharing that part. What inspired you to pursue your career?
Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words. I appreciate that. I I think the number of things that inspired me to be where I am today, and I am someone who has had a number of different experiences throughout my career. I'm very fortunate to have had those different experiences because they all led me here.
Yeah.
And I think to really understand more about kind of me, we have to go back and to when I was younger. And I've always been someone who's been driven by impact.
Hmm.
What can I do that's impactful? And when I was starting off in my career as a young college graduate, I started working in banking and I had a really good job in banking. And I was in the UK at the time. I started in the US and then went to the UK. And I remember vividly having this really, really difficult moment where I was questioning it all because I was like, well, what impact am I having?
Yeah.
Positive impact am I having on the world?
Hmm.
And that has been a question throughout my career. How can I make a positive impact? How can I leave my mark? And I initially thought that meant like doing something on a grand scale. You know, I always say like Mother Teresa, I always use her as an example. Doing something like that, you know, being a world known, like just philanthropist and just this person who's changing the world on a global scale until I realized, you know, that I have power within my small circle of influence, my small sphere of influence. I can do something then. And so that led me to pursue other things. I wrote a children's book, for example, because I wanted to showcase Zimbabwe, I wanted to showcase Africa, I wanted to showcase our languages and the diversity and heritage, right? And so over the years, I've come now to understand that impact really is all about what you do with what you're given in that particular moment, in that particular season, in that particular place that you happen to be. And so, fast forward, as an attorney, I was able to do that through pro bono work. And you know, I did some really cool and fun like cases when I was working as an attorney. And I worked with my first coach when I was returning from parental leave,
Mm,
and really had great experience working with that coach. And that was the first time that I was able to say out loud other things that I really wanted to do. I had written them down, you know, I'd written some things down, but to actually say it out loud and have someone kind of say, yeah, that's okay. It's okay for you to think about these things outside of the law.
mm,
And fast forward again, I experienced a career shift. I was impacted, as I talk about on LinkedIn. I'm sure you've probably seen me talking about this. I was impacted by a reduction in force. I was laid off from my job, and I really thought hard and intentionally about what I wanted to do. And it was very clear to me that I wanted to pursue something else other than law. And coaching is something that felt very natural to me. It's something that I have done. And formally throughout my career, I've always been interested in investing in other people and helping people get to the next place in their career or in their lives. And so then embarked on that. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of years. And here I am now. And this is now my like new career path. But everything I have done has kind of led me to this moment. Like I said, you know, every career I've had has helped me to get here.
mm,
Um, and so we can talk more about that, but that's kind of the journey and what inspired me to get here. And I'm very happy. I'm very happy doing this work. I really, really, really get so much joy and fulfillment from helping other people in this way.
mm. That's awesome that you shared it's the small things or it's the little things that were happening throughout your career that then shaped who you are today and who you have now become. It's also a reminder to our listeners to say um, there is no mistake in what happens in your life because it is
Mhm.
built into something and it is then going to shape into something. So thank you for sharing that part of your journey and that insight of there is no mistake and just then being intentional is very key and not losing your purpose. Like as a lawyer, you still had that thing of I want to be creating impact. And you were not limited to say, oh, because I don't have $1 million or because I am not in this space, then I am limited to this space. I cannot flourish in the space that I'm in. I am so glad that you shared that part of your journey to say, despite in every space that you were in, the one thing that was also then standing out is you creating an impact in that space. And that translated to how you were delivering work and how you were also interacting with those around you and impacting lives. And you still are impacting lives today. And it's in those small things, it's in these conversations as well where you get to impact lives. I always say it's one head at a time. Like we can never be able to reach like the entire world and impact like on that large scale. But whenever you start small, you then plant that seed and build onto it. So I'm glad and thank you for sharing that part.
you. Thank you so much, Ropa. I appreciate you saying that. And, I want to say something to you, because you are someone who's having an impact with this podcast that you started. I look back at some of the episodes that you've had, and, you started from a place of purpose and a place of being intentional. And here you are continuing to grow. And even the story of how we met,
Yeah.
you reaching out and wanting to speak with me, like just that drive that you have to get stories out there to help leaders, right? Like
Mhm.
unboxing leadership. I love that. And so I want to encourage you and just say, keep going. You're doing so awesome. And I really am so glad to be here with you. And I'm glad that, we met because but for LinkedIn, I don't know how we would have met otherwise, So I'm so glad that we met. I'm glad you reached out.
Yeah.
And you're having an impact. You really are. So keep going, keep shining.
That is so encouraging. Like there are days where you're just like, but if you
Hmm.
hear feedback like this, it's so encouraging. It will then keep me going and keep on reaching out to other people and keep on shining. So thank you so much for those words of encouragement. Really appreciate it. Um, what is the biggest challenge that you are facing right now, and how are you tackling it, if any?
Mm, yeah. I think that's a loaded question. It's a loaded question as we are living, I think, in probably unprecedented times. There's so
Yeah.
much going on in the world.
Mm.
And I think for me, one of the challenges, and it's a now challenge, but it evolves. It's kind of always there. As I mentioned, I'm a mom, and so for me, I think a lot about my child and this world.
Mm.
And one of the challenges that I face is how do I adequately live in the world and be a member of society and know what's going on,
Yeah.
but at the same time be present as a mom
Mm.
and not let some of this stuff spill over because I have a very young child
Mm.
who doesn't, know what's going on in the news and all of that. And
Yeah.
so I have to act as a shield,
Mm.
right? And at the same time, how do I prevent like anxiety from taking over as I think
Yeah.
about what the future looks like, for her and what she's going to have to deal with. So I think that is a challenge that I'm
Mm.
constantly navigating as a mom, and it gets more heightened the older she gets, the more the world looks the way that it does, and there's so much going on in the world. I think that is a challenge, is how do I navigate all of that? And I'm a lawyer by training, and so I'm a natural, like, how do I solve a problem? How do I solve this problem? And so it's very easy for me to kind of think about all the things and try and figure out, okay, how do I, and there's a lot that's out of my control. And
Yeah.
so that is scary. That is hard.
Mm.
So the challenge really is how do you remain whole and present
Mm.
when the world is so broken and
Yeah.
it's so difficult right now
Mm.
for many of us, right? I think that's the challenge currently. Having said that, I will say on the flip side, the beauty of having a child and a young child at that is she doesn't really care about
Yeah.
a lot of things, and he cares about what like little kids care about, right?
Yeah.
And so being present and having to remain just mom, that's what she cares about. And so that allows me more often than not to kind of come
Mm.
back, and so it helps me. And yeah, but it's a daily challenge, a daily
Mm.
struggle, kind of navigating that. And it's hard. It's
Yeah.
very hard. And I don't know whether I'm tackling it effectively, but I talk with others. I talk with other parents, I talk with other moms, and I just try and like remember what's in my control and what's not within my control.
Mm.
And also giving myself lots of grace. I say that to my clients all the time, and I really believe in that concept of giving yourself grace. I think
Mm.
it's natural for us to feel especially when we're tired and we're not, so it's natural for us actually to beat ourselves up in
Yeah.
those moments.
Mm,
Um, but I try to give myself grace, and I'm really exercising that
mm.
more, especially in this current environment. So, yeah.
I believe you're an awesome mom. There's also this one thing of like there's no manual on how to be, I always say this, there's no manual on how to be an adult, let alone being a mother and being responsible for a whole human being. And the best part as well is even if there's no manual, like there's no marking scheme to say, oh yeah, you're doing terrible, terrible, or you're doing like it's that grace that you're saying, extending yourself grace that is needed. And thank you for sharing that. Um, can you share a time of where you faced a really difficult decision in your career and how you led yourself through it?
And lots of those stories. Let's see. I'm going to talk about most recently. I mentioned that I was impacted by a reduction in force at my last legal job. That was a moment where, the decision was, okay, go ahead and find another legal job and just, continue climbing the ladder, continue finding the next thing. I had a successful career, and that was something that was natural and expected for me to do.
Mm.
Um, as we now know, fast forward, we know that I didn't pursue that. I took a different path altogether, and that was difficult, right? That's a difficult moment because everyone is telling you, here's the next legal job. I can help you, right? I can
Yeah.
help you find the next thing, like get back up. And because the natural thing is, why wouldn't you want to continue on that path? It's
Mm.
prestigious, it's lucrative. Like, why wouldn't you want to continue? And you've spent so much time investing in education and all of that. Why wouldn't you want to continue? And so it's really difficult to go against the grain, which is
Yeah.
what I did.
Mm.
And I will say that for the first time, probably in my life, I felt like I was doing something that I actually really fully was like, I want to really do this. I really want to invest in myself. That's not to say I didn't want to be a lawyer and whatever, but I really felt because I was going so much against the grain, I felt like I actually am doing this for me. I'm not
Yeah.
doing this to please anybody because everybody wanted me to do the other thing, right? And
Yeah.
of course, I had people who were in my corner and who were supporting me, obviously. But I think the natural kind of thing was for me to go and do the next legal job. And I think the way that um, I I I navigated that decision, and that was an ongoing thing. It wasn't like I just made the decision and then that was it. It was difficult because I had to really tackle and confront my identity. Who was I actually? If
Yeah.
I stripped the lawyer part, who was I?
Yeah.
And that was a difficult process. And so for me, what really helped during that time was leaning and cultivating my faith on a deeper level,
Mm.
and really thinking about, and again, intention comes up,
Yeah.
the life that I wanted. Who did I
Mm.
want to be, and what did that life look like? Could I be that person, and could that life still exist if I pursued this option versus this option, right? I had to be very honest with myself,
Mm.
especially because I had practiced law for at that time, I think, mm, 12 years. So I'd done it for a while and
Mm.
I had seen many different flavors and versions of it. And so I had to
Yeah.
be honest with myself.
Mm.
Was there going to be such a dramatic change in the pursuit in, career in law that was going to lead me to the life that I envisioned? And the
Mm.
answer was no. The answer for me was no.
Mm.
And so I stepped away and I pursued this other alternative path. And initially I really was like, okay, I'm so done with law. I've done this for so long. I'm so done.
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking about who to coach, naively I was like, I coach everybody. I coach everybody. I coach everybody. And I realized, well, that doesn't work because people need to know, like, who are you speaking to? You
Yeah.
know? They want to know who you're speaking to. If you coach everybody, like you coach nobody at that point, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. And so then I realized, wow, actually, the people who are coming to me and who I know very well are lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found myself like, oh, okay. that is my niche.
Yeah.
That is my target. That is my group.
Mm,
And I still had non-lawyers coming to me because they've still resonated with the things that I was saying.
yeah.
Um, but that I recognized that, oh, these are my people. And so and then what ended up happening is, oh, and I wasn't actually leaving law in the way that I thought I would.
Yeah.
I was actually getting even more embedded because now I'm talking to lawyers about how to build careers they love for the most part in the law. I have some clients who, um, say they want to leave the law, but for the most part, it's in the law. And so I was that took me by surprise. I didn't expect that. But I think remaining open as well, that's another thing that I would say helped
Mm,
me, remaining open to what this actually looked like, because I had an idea in
mm,
my mind. That idea that I had in my mind is not what it ended up being. Even now, the idea that I have is not what I'm actually doing. And so just embracing change, embracing uncertainty,
yeah.
and remaining open
Mm,
and trusting that I was on the right path.
yeah.
That's kind of how I end up going through that. And I want to be very clear that even though I say all the time that that layoff was a gift, it's not to say that I did not have a really difficult time with that. It was unexpected.
Mm,
There was a lot of loss, a lot of grieving that came with it. It was a lot, it wasn't just like that. So I
mm,
want to also just be clear that it was really difficult, that transition, very difficult.
mm,
Um, Perhaps one of the most difficult, certainly career transitions that I've encountered to date.
mm.
And it's really up there in terms of life transitions, one of the most difficult life transitions that I've encountered. Not the most difficult. I think motherhood probably would take the cake. But certainly it's up there.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that because it's rare to find people who would then be like, it was difficult. People would then just be like, oh yeah, so I was laid off and then yeah, I just thought, I think I was just going to coaching and everything just smoothed from the end. Here I am today. So it's rare
Yeah.
to find people who are authentic with their journeys to say, um, it was not easy, but even in
Mm,
that difficulty, here I am. We stood tall and
mm,
it's still not easy, but we still keep going. Like we're not going to stop because
mhm,
it's difficult. That's also quite
mhm,
encouraging, even to our listeners and to myself as well, to say, in as much as it presents itself as, oh, it's so difficult, there are so many people who have walked the journey, including yourself, of that
mhm,
difficult path, but you overcame and here you are. So thank you
mhm.
for sharing that and being vulnerable.
Yeah, my
I really
pleasure.
value people who are vulnerable and who say things as they are and not sugarcoat things because you get a lot of leaders who are like, yeah, it's so easy. And when you look at yourself, you're like, why is it difficult
Mm,
for me? Is there something that is wrong with me? What am I
that's
getting
right.
wrong? But when you get people who
That's
come
right.
in and be authentic with you to say, it's not easy, but it can be done, that also then
Mm,
encourages you to keep going and doing more.
that's right. That's right. There's a quote that I really love. I actually used it at my law school graduation kind of celebration, and that is, the thing always seems impossible until it's done.
Yeah.
It's that's the case, right?
Mhm.
It seems insurmountable, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, okay. That's to say, to your point, we can do
Mhm.
hard things.
Yeah.
We can do hard things. Hard things exist, and we
Mhm.
can do them. Um, yeah.
That's awesome. That brings me to my next question on resilience.
Mm,
This is a word that is thrown around in
mm,
different careers, in different spaces, and it's also thrown around on women in leadership. You have to be resilient.
mm.
What does resilience mean to you as a woman, as a leader, as a female leader?
Um, yeah, I talk a lot about resilience as well. And I think resilience, if we're just breaking it down, and for me, how I think about resilience is, it means that when hard things that we're talking about, right? When difficult
Mhm.
situations arise, how do I respond?
Yeah.
And my response is what builds the resilience, right?
Mm,
Um, and it's what builds the character. It's the details.
mm,
What's in the details of that response? And what I have found, especially being who I am, like I've said, right? I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm, originally an immigrant to this country, all of those things is over time, rest,
mm,
community,
mm,
faith,
mm,
those have been pillars for me.
mm,
And sometimes not exercise them all very well, particularly the rest one, being a woman in corporate, America, the rest one has been it's one I'm relearning and relearning. But those are three things when I look back and I think about how did I get through, it was those three things that
mm,
helped.
mm. Oh, thank you.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry to cut you short.
No, no, let's continue. Let's continue.
Yeah. So in this modern day, there's a lot of data from different sources, different places. Um, have you ever been in a situation where you have this amount of data, it's telling you something, but your intuition is saying something? How have you created a balance between what data is saying and what your intuition is saying?
Yeah. I mentioned that I relied on my faith a
Mm,
lot, right?
mm,
I'm going to go back to that same scenario that I was talking about, my most recent like career transition.
mm.
Um, because, the data on paper, it was, hey, continue and climb the
Yeah.
ladder, especially given the experiences that I had been so fortunate to have. I could have landed something that on paper would have been really awesome and
Yeah.
made so much sense and would have been a great story of my trajectory in the law, right? Like so
Yeah.
awesome. And in fact, my entire career, including before law school, was all in financial services. So I
Mm,
really could have like taken my last experience and like, pivoted and done something, continued to have this beautiful career story in financial services, first as an internal auditor, then as a lawyer. The data
yeah.
supported that. The
Mhm.
data said, this, you really can do this. It was a
Yeah.
great launching pad. The company that I was at would have been a great launching pad to do anything after that, right?
Mm,
The data was there. In addition, people, right, were
yeah.
also
Yeah.
saying the same thing and also like being very helpful in their own way, though it was
Mm,
not helpful in my necessarily the decision I then made to pivot, but helpful in their own way to say, hey, I can help you, land this and land that, and there's this job and there's this job, right?
mm,
But in my heart, my gut,
mm,
I knew that I could not and
mm,
did not want to. I did not want to pursue that.
yeah.
I did not want to pursue that. And I think the story doesn't end there, right? It's not, okay, I felt it in my gut and then that was it. Like I alluded to before, it was difficult.
Mm,
Just because I knew it in my gut doesn't mean that I was ready immediately to be like, okay, I'm done.
yeah.
It was still a process. I still had to, there's a lot of internal struggle. I still
Yeah.
had to like work that out.
Mm,
Um, because it really was kind of a breaking of what I viewed to be my identity and what I had built up as my identity, being
mm,
a lawyer.
being a
And
lawyer.
so it was a really intense, like internal thing. Um, Ultimately, I do believe that pursuing what I felt in my heart, what I felt in my gut, I
Mm,
do believe that has brought me, it's allowed me to have more peace overall
mm,
about the decision. And as I have gone through the process of making the transition, I think doing so has allowed me to have more peace.
mm.
But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to make those decisions because you sometimes doubt yourself and you're like, is this gut feeling? Is this really like a gut feeling or is this hunger? Like what is it? What is this feeling? Is this really for real or is it lack of
Mm,
sleep? Am I
yeah.
going crazy now? Am I delusional?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And so it is hard. It is hard.
Mm,
And I think for me, coming back to being honest with myself, having really tough conversations with myself, that really helped. And I
mm,
think often what I see with clients is people don't make the time to have those tough conversations,
yeah.
and or when they do, they don't like the response, and so they reject that response and they ignore it, right?
Mm,
The response that comes back when you ask yourself that question or those questions. I had to do both. I had to confront myself and I had to really listen to the answers and I had to be like, okay, all right.
mm,
Um, if I want the life that I'm saying I want and I want my future to look a certain way,
mm,
something has to change.
mm,
And the change had to be the career.
mm.
Had to make a transition there. But again, like I said, there was a funny twist in that I'm still in law. I'm still very much in law, right? So it just had to look a little different, but that's kind of how I navigated that most recent one because it definitely was exactly as you described, like data
Mm,
versus like gut. Yeah.
mm. Thank you for sharing. What I'm thinking of is, like the Jonah story in the Bible, like where you're told you're going to Nineveh, and then he went to Tarshish, and then yeah, here's in Nineveh. So like you're like, no more law, but your path is law, and then you're brought back to law, but just in a different way and perspective. That's how
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 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 And if I'm really I've assessed and I've seen this pattern in my life actually. And I
Mm,
don't think like law, I don't know what the future holds. Let me just say that, right? I'm very open to other things outside of law in terms of like coaching and all of that. But
mm,
what I've noticed is this pattern where I come back to the thing that I know.
mm,
So what I mean by that is when I went to college, right, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I already knew then. I knew when I was very young that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I went to college and decided that I was going to take a break because I experienced my first like burnout, even though I didn't call it that. I didn't know it at the time. In hindsight, I know that's what it was, but experienced that and I decided to pursue I decided to take 1 year. That's what I told myself. I'm going to do 1 year working in banking and internal audit because internal audit is very similar to law. It'll be great. So I did that, ended up doing that for 4 years. And I went to law school. When I went to law school, I said to myself, very similar to what I said to myself after my transition from my last legal job, I said, I don't want anything to do with financial services. I have done this and I need to try and experiment and see other things, you
mm,
know? And I did that. I tried so many different things in law school and I'm so glad that I did. But guess what? I ended up in financial services because people looked at my resume and they were like, oh my goodness, you have this amazing financial services experience. Come and
yeah,
try this financial services like regulatory law. You're going to enjoy it. And I did because I
yeah,
understood it because I had done it before.
yeah,
Right. And
mm,
so, very similarly, when I had this like moment of like, okay, what do I do next? Right. And I was like, I don't want to do law, nothing to do with the law. I was like, well, this is what you were doing and that's what you know, right? And that's what you were good at and people
yeah,
can relate to that. And
mm,
these particular people, lawyers can relate to that. And
yeah,
so I've noticed that pattern emerge. And so now I'm very aware, like, okay, I need to really think twice when I have those strong
I don't
that, right? Like I have to catch myself because there is a pattern there. So
know.
anyway, I share that for what it's worth.
Thanks for sharing that. It's just reminding me to be aware. Like it takes so much being self-aware of um being self-aware and knowing yourself and having those difficult questions, sitting with yourself for you to be able to recognize patterns in your life. I used to have this boss, my previous job, he would say, look at patterns. Like there's nothing that
Mm,
happens by mistake. Just follow the patterns. This
mm,
happened today. Tomorrow it might also come, but it will come in a different shape. But
mm,
when you sit down
mm,
and reflect on it, you realize this is exactly what happened yesterday. So just be
mm,
aware of patterns in your life. So now whenever I get to any like interaction experience, I then come back home and sit down and be like, which pattern is this linked to? So that I'm not
Mm,
being thrown off because at times these patterns shape who we are and shape who we become.
mm,
And if you miss
mm,
them, you might also miss a part of yourself because you're not recognizing
mm,
patterns that are coming out that are happening in your life. So thanks for sharing
mm.
patterns.
Yeah, thank you for
Mm.
sharing that as well. That's powerful. I do believe that they are patterns, and we're kind of creatures of habit,
Yeah.
we kind of do things that we're used to and all of that. So yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what's a current project or initiative that you're currently working on?
I can't speak a lot about this. All I will say is I'm working on coaching on a bigger scale,
Yeah.
more impact, more impact. Let me just say
Awesome.
that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. What's a common misconception about your career as a coach you wish people understood,
Hmm.
if there is any?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe, and I try to deconstruct this myth if
Mm.
it's out there, because I have heard some people like put me on a pedestal as a coach, as their coach, right? They're like, oh, but you have everything figured out. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's just like the doctor, right? The doctor
Yeah.
still needs a doctor,
Yeah.
right? Like, no, it doesn't mean I have it all figured out. So I try to deconstruct this myth that just because I'm a coach, I have everything figured out, I'm perfect and whatever, right? And so I am okay being vulnerable and sharing what's going on with me, lessons I'm learning as
Yeah.
a human, because I'm human first, right? All
Manifest.
these other labels are extra and they come after being a human. And so I try to remind people of that. Like, no, I'm also a human.
Mm.
And the things I don't I don't necessarily talk about this a lot with clients, but I'll say it now. Like a lot of the things that I help clients through, I've navigated myself. And
Mm.
that is in part probably why they come to me, right? Because they
Mm.
know that as a lawyer, I would have seen this. As a woman lawyer, I would have seen this. As a Black woman lawyer, I would have seen this, right?
Yeah.
Um, we don't spend time talking about my experiences so much. We talk about them and how to move them forward. But um, I'm also human. I've gone through, challenges, and I've now become able to share my story of career transition, the most recent one, more openly because I want to help people understand that these things happen
Mm.
and this is my story and this is how I navigated it. Maybe your story is different, you
Yeah.
know. Maybe you'll navigate it differently, but I just want you to know that happens.
Hey.
Can happen to anybody, right? And this is what I did if it's helpful to you. So I really do believe in the power of sharing stories to kind of deconstruct any myths that
Mm.
I am superhuman or perfect or have it all figured out. I absolutely don't because I'm a human navigating this thing called life, just like everybody else.
That's so profound. Thank you for sharing that. Um, sorry about the noise. Who has
Can't hear
been,
anything.
oh, perfect. Who has been your most important mentor and what did you learn from them?
Mm, yeah, that's hard. Pull
That's
one
good.
person out in particular. Oof, that's difficult. It's very difficult for me to answer that, Rupa. I have many people who have poured into me and been so
Yeah.
generous with
Mm,
their wisdom, with their time, with their talents. I
mm.
will say, can I cheat and kind of like say collectively
Yes.
what I have learned? Such a lawyer answer. So
I saw
I will
that
say
coming. I was like, you want to lawyer me, please. Please hear this.
collectively, I will say the most important and most impactful
Mm,
mentors I've had are people who have allowed me to see myself in ways that I wasn't seeing myself. They can see something in me and they kind of speak those things and encourage me.
mm,
They speak life into me. People who are able to do that. And I have a number of people who've done that for me over the course of my life, over the course of my career. People who encourage me and allow me to kind of exist in my fullness, right? With all the different dynamic elements of who I am, and they encourage that. Because I'm someone who needs I need to exist in my all my, in my fullness, when I felt stifled, those have been some of the hardest times and most depressing times of my life.
Mm,
So people who've encouraged that, and I think people who are connectors, because
mm,
I really value someone taking the time to connect me with someone else. I think that is invaluable, you
yeah.
know, someone who is trusting you to be a good like representative of them when you go to the person they're introducing you. Like that says a lot. When someone connects you with someone else, it really speaks volumes of how they see you. And so I really, when people do that, I value that. And I am someone who also tries to be a connector of people and tries to put people in touch and say, oh, you need this. Okay, what about that person? And so I think those have also been impactful mentors for me. And then people who, to your point, haven't been afraid to share the things that didn't go well.
Yeah.
You know, we
Mm,
hear a lot about success.
mm,
Well, can we talk about when things didn't go well? Can you talk
mm.
about failures? Can you talk about mistakes that you made? Like
Yeah.
people who are open with that. I really value that again because we don't live in a world that is open to that and people share kind of mistakes often. So when people do that and they share vulnerably, it really helps me to do the same, but also to learn from whatever it is that they experience and to help me know that I'm not alone. So I think collectively, those are some of the things that some of the best mentors in my life have done.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's profound. Thank you for sharing that. You are indeed a connector because the number of people that you have asked me to reach out, that then just shows how you are wanting to pass on the baton and also being impactful in those connections and be like, oh yeah, you can reach out to this person, try to reach out to that person. You didn't know me, you only saw me on LinkedIn, but you were trusting enough to say, yeah, you can reach out to this person, just tell them that I referred you. So it's actually, I think, the biggest gift that you can get from anyone, for them to connect you, if you said, to people that are in their circles, and to be that vulnerable and be like, yeah, you can reach out to this person. So thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that.
Mhm. My pleasure.
Yeah. If you were to meet your younger self, what would you tell them?
We made it. We're making it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We're doing it. We're gonna be just fine. That's what I would say. We're gonna be just fine. We're making it, and we're doing well, and um, everything is gonna work out the way that it should. Keep going. Keep going. You got this. I
Yeah.
would just pour a lot of encouragement into my younger self, and just hold her face and just look her in the eye and say, you are amazing. You
Oh,
deserve every good thing and just keep going. Yeah.
thank you. I'll be your younger self. Thank you for.
You tell your younger self. I'm curious. What do you tell your younger self? I want to hear that.
Um, I'll tell my younger self to just stay on the path. Like nothing happens
Mm,
by mistake, because I think, like, I actually resonate with your story to say everything that happened in my life, or the patterns as well. Like there's no mistake
mm,
that it's those experiences that happened in the past that have shaped who I have become today.
mm,
It's those people that I've met who have opened doors for me, who have also then helped me to be that person who wants to open doors for the next person. So stay on the path. That's what I'll tell my younger self.
mm,
Mhm.
mm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Do you like reading books?
Such an interesting question. Ooh. It's so interesting the timing of this question because I've recently had a rediscovery of my love for reading physical books. I read a ton of books, but I
Uh,
have been for the last several years doing audiobooks.
mm,
I read a couple of like physical books here and there that I love, but mostly audiobooks because time and all of that. And problem is when I went to law school, I started reading a lot
yeah.
because you have to read a lot. And that unfortunately like killed my love for reading. I was such a an avid reader growing up, and then I went to law school and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I would read for school. And so my pleasure reading kind of diminished.
Mm,
But I'm rediscovering my love for like physical books. I'm so excited now. I go to the library a lot with my little one. And so like now I've been taking out, books for myself as well. And I've got a goal this year to read um 4 to 5 books a month. I'm on track so far.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just going back to going back to my love for reading like physical books, I'm really excited to kind of get back there because it really took a long time for me to get back here. I didn't even think I would get back here,
Mm,
because thanks law school, it crushed my love for like reading, like for pleasure. It really did.
mm,
Um, and I was just like, oh, I'll just do audiobooks. That's who I am now. I'm just an
yeah.
audiobook. But well, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back to physical books. So to answer your question, yes, I love to read physical books. I wrote one myself, as I mentioned. And I really like believe in the power of books as just stories, as a way for us to learn, as a gateway into other people's lives. And I love, 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 love stories. So yeah.
What's the title of the book that you wrote? You said it's a children's book,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I usually have it right here, but it's over there. It's called My First Book of Shona and Ndebele Words, which you will recognize as, the two primary languages, native languages of Zimbabwe. Of course, Zimbabwe has so many native languages, right? But those are the two primary ones, and it also has English. So it's a trilingual book, and it celebrates those two languages, which as well you probably know, right? Being Zimbabwean, that those two languages, there's a long history between those two tribes and all of that. And I really wanted to celebrate them both equally. And my book is a little glimpse into Zimbabwe, into Africa, from a very positive light. I wanted, kids to see themselves in the book. I wanted kids to learn
Mm.
about, something else, another place. And yeah, just really celebrating like my heritage. So that's the title of the book. It's been several years now since I wrote this, about 5 years. And I don't actively sell it anymore, but it is on Amazon. Other people sell it on Amazon now, but I don't anymore. I'm sold out of the copies that I had, and like, yeah, but it's still available on Amazon. But yeah, that's my baby, my first baby. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'll be sure to look it out. I have nieces. I'm sure
Oh,
that'll
nice.
that'll find it helpful because their Shona is like what's that word?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
So just wrapping up, beyond your title, what legacy do you hope to leave?
Could you repeat the question for me? It kind of cut out, so I didn't hear what you said.
So, beyond the title, what legacy do you hope to leave?
Oh, when you say beyond the title, what do you mean?
Beyond you being a career coach, beyond you
Oh,
being an attorney, a mom,
no.
wife.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely don't want to be known by those titles only.
Mhm.
The legacy that I hope to leave is that I did my best to give my best
Yes.
while I was still here.
Uh-huh.
And I hope that's how I'm known, as someone who really cared about people, who
Mm.
really gave um, the best that I could in the moment and during the time that I was here. That's certainly one like overarching, yeah, but I had impact. But I had impact. And there's so many other things, when I think about legacy, like for my family and all of that, right? Things that I'm trying to teach. Um, but that's, I think, the overarching one is that I had impact. I did the very best with what I was given, the talents and the time and all the things that I was given. And I did my best with that. Yeah, to impact others.
That's so profound. If you can complete this sentence for me, success beyond the role means.
Success beyond the role means really being excited about the life and career that
Mm,
you're building or have built. That's true success.
mm,
When you are in alignment with whatever it is that you really want to do, your purpose, whatever you want to call that, and
mm,
what you're actually doing, when those two things are in alignment and you're excited about that, that's
mm.
true success, in my opinion.
Thank you for that. Now we move to the fun segment. This will be like whatever comes to your head first. Just shoot. No lawyering here.
Okay, okay.
What's the funniest mistake you made in your very first job, if you still remember?
Ooh. Mm, I don't know. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Oh, actually, I guess going back to like internship when I was in college,
Yep.
I was interning for NASCAR. I had no idea anything about NASCAR. I didn't know about NASCAR. I wasn't a fan. I didn't watch it. And I was working at like they were called speed parks. I don't know what they're called now, but one of the NASCAR drivers came and I had no idea who he was. Like, I didn't realize later, obviously, when I was then introduced and my manager was like, oh, this is so and so. And it was like, I think she was like expecting me to like be really like, and I was like, didn't register. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that was so embarrassing in hindsight, right? Because when I
Imagine.
told other people who were well versed on NASCAR, they was like, yeah, and I was like, you know, so yeah, probably very silly, very naive, mistake. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Can you describe the most surprising thing that happened to you in your first job? Or
Oh my gosh, we keep going to my first job, girl.
or
Most
any
surprising
job
thing.
or any career, like
Um, I think I was pleasantly surprised that I got the opportunity to work in the UK.
mm,
My job out of college,
yeah,
working in banking. I was pleasantly surprised. Although initially my response was not one of happiness because I was, enjoying my life in the city, my friends, and I was like, London, I'm gonna go to London. And I'm like, girl, what? In hindsight, I'm like, what? But I came to really, 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 really appreciate and love that whole experience. I really had such a great time. So yeah, that was a pleasant like surprise, one that I obviously did not predict at the time. But yeah, it worked out well.
mm. What's a job that you've or you said a lawyer? What task were you always assigned to as a child?
No, let's go back. What's the question?
It was what's a job you've always wanted as a kid?
Oh, so the other one, yes, law was certainly one, but the other one was I wanted to be an actress.
Nice. Actress? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to do performing arts, which I do
Mhm.
on the side and have done throughout my life, like always on the side, doing some kind of performing arts, being on a stage. I love that. So
Yes.
I was like, either law or being an actress. And someone convinced me that I could do both if I was a lawyer, because I would be in court and I would be performing. And then the joke is, I never went to court as a lawyer. I wasn't that type of lawyer. I wasn't a trial lawyer.
Yeah.
I was very much like a transactional regulatory attorney. I didn't go to court and didn't like going to court either, but
Mm.
that's how someone convinced me that I could do both, being a lawyer. Yeah.
Divorce. What task were you always assigned to as a child?
I don't know that there was one in particular, but I think probably the usual like cleaning up, nothing specific that
Nothing.
I can think of. Yeah.
If you could trade any places with any fictional character for a day, who would it be and why?
Well, fictional characters, I gotta think now. Oh, you know what? The first thing that comes to my mind is one of the Bridgerton characters. I
Yes.
enjoy Bridgerton. I really do. I'm actually like hopeful that there's another season coming soon. But yeah, one of those characters. Those beautiful, lavish outfits they wear, and just yeah.
Yeah, I also love
Um,
it.
yeah, there's the outfits, it's the drama, the fun, the excitement. It's never a dull moment. I probably wouldn't want to be entangled in like the drama and gossip, but certainly being around it, it wouldn't be a dull day if I just had a day to be one of the fictional characters. Oh, I think I'd had a lot of fun. Have a lot of fun.
Awesome. What's one job that you think you'll be terrible at?
You know, I really admire teachers and I think they're underpaid for what they do. They
Hmm.
have a lot of patience. They have a lot of patience. So I don't know that I could be a teacher because that is a job, especially for young kids. Let me be clear.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
young kids, that's whew, that takes the special person. Good teachers are like, yeah, they're gold. So I don't think I could do that job.
Mm. Would you rather have a perfect mo memory or be able to see into the future?
Perfect memory.
Would you rather take a lot of small risks or one big risk?
To what end?
Okay.
Like what am I what are these risks leading up to? I think I've done both in life. I've
Yes.
done both. Um, yeah, I've done both. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I feel like I've done both. Um, one big risk and then that's it. Maybe that. I'd probably choose that. Then I don't have to worry about risks anymore. I've done my one big risk and that's it.
You're done.
Done.
Would you rather lose all your work in your computer or have to listen to that same song on repeat over and over again, like that same boring song over and
Definitely
over
would rather listen to the song. I'd rather listen to the song. I've lost everything on my computer before and that's not fun. So
again?
give me the song. Yeah.
Any day, anytime.
Yeah, give me the song. It's okay. I'm creative. I'll figure out a way to spice it up.
You add your own lyrics in there.
Yeah, I'll dance, we'll come up with a dance routine, anything. But no, I'm not gonna lose everything in my computer now.
No, thank you so much, Yeve, for making time. Is there any question that I missed you wish I'd asked you today?
Absolutely not. You asked me so many good questions. You're such a good host. Thank you. I've had a lot of fun being here with you. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much once again for coming through and giving time and being vulnerable and sharing all these profound nuggets. I really appreciate you coming through. And to our listeners, thank you so much for watching this episode. Hop on to the next one, like, subscribe, and share. Till the next one.